And we're live. Welcome back to the Digital Creators Podcast. Today we're in the studio with Tye Turner. What's up, Tye?
What's up? I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. So Tye Turner is the director and designer at Medicle Studios, a Perth-based contemporary street and fashion label, which formed in 2019. Tye got into fashion in 2016 when he became a DJ. He's self-taught when it comes to fashion design, mostly learning from YouTube and trial and error. Tye played his first DJ gig at the club just 2 weeks after he started, and this month it's actually his 7th year of DJing. He's played multiple festivals such as Groovin the Moo, Origin Fields, and recently the Post Malone After Party. And in this episode, we're going to talk about how Tye got into fashion design and DJing. We'll go in depth into the design process behind his clothing brand Medicle, his trip to Paris for Fashion Week, social media marketing, his goals for the future, and more. So yeah, let's get into it. I guess take us back. I think it's this one.
So good.
Take us back. Firstly, you got into DJing first, didn't you? Like before fashion.
Sorry, I keep hitting that.
Oh yeah.
So I got into DJing when I was 18, out of high school. And before I'd started DJing, I had no kind of creative endeavors, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I did chemistry and physics in school, maths, and I actually thought that I was going to be an engineer. I went to uni originally to study software engineering, so that was where I was at. And then I had some friends that DJ'd, and I just went to a party with them one night when I was 18, saw them DJing, wanted to get involved. And they basically said to me, if you're good, we're not going to say no, if you want to come play with us.
So you were originally going to do software engineering at uni?
Yeah, so...
Was that like a passion of yours or...?
Yeah, so I've always been very interested in technology and stuff like that. We'll touch on it later, but that's
I can see how that ties into your branding,
medical, So yeah, I've always loved technology, and I really thought that I was gonna be that guy, coding on the computer and shit all day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up learning how to DJ. One of the guys, Brody, gave me his controller, gave me a quick lesson, and then I was off on my own for a week. Spent every single day learning how to mix, basically teaching myself. I don't know, the resources they weren't that good in terms of YouTube and stuff. And I ended up just reaching out to people and saying, hey, I just learned how to DJ this week. Can I DJ your party? And they're like, yeah. So I went back to my friend that was DJing at this other party, and I said to him, I just started DJing. I've already got a few gigs lined up. And he was like, well, we're doing our first nightclub event next week. Do you want to open it? I played my first ever nightclub gig 2 weeks after I'd just learned.
That's insane.
2016. And since then, been playing in clubs ever since. So, yeah.
That's got to be like a record of like the fastest like DJ to start DJing and then go straight into the clubs. Which club was it?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm from Mandurah originally. So it was, back then it was called Toucan. The event was called Ugly. And yeah, that was my first ever gig. I'd never used CDJs before, which is this is the club standard gear. So I actually had to ask the DJ before me how to select a song.
Wow.
Cause
didn't even know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Did it go okay?
Yeah, well, it must have been all right because they got me back for the next one and the next one. And then, you know what I mean? I just started playing.
That's a good sign
gigs, though. So crazy, man. And you know what? That moment, going to the party, seeing those guys, playing that gig, that really changed the trajectory of my whole life in terms of, wanting to be a software engineer, wanting to go to uni, wanting to be very like science focused into becoming very creative focused. So yeah.
I'm sure we'll go into detail with it, but I can see how you're kind of tying all these experiences into like together for like your branding and personal brand and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you mentioned that you got into fashion sort of, it was kind of a byproduct of becoming a DJ because people were seeing you more, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So before, I'd probably say in high school and even up until I started DJing, my mum was still buying a lot of my clothes. I had, it's crazy to say this, but, I had very little interest in fashion growing up. It's crazy to see kids these days, and they go into high school wearing Gucci belts and Dunks and all that stuff, like that wasn't me or anyone at my school. And yeah, my mom would, she'd go to David Jones and she'd just buy 5 T-shirts or whatever, and she'd just give them to me, and they'd be size small and medium or whatever, and I'd just put them on, and I didn't really care what I was wearing. And then when I started DJing, and I guess, music and fashion are very related. It's very obvious. So I just started getting more into it. Originally I was getting into surfwear because that's kind of big in Mandurah. So
Pyramids Beach, boy.
Exactly. Oh, he knows. Yeah, we were going up to places like Common Ground in Freo. I don't know if you've been there before, and that was like the place to buy clothes for us. And yeah, I started there. Then I started to get more into streetwear. And then over the years, I just kind of realized that I was finding less and less stuff that I really liked in terms of the fit and the designs and the graphics. And I think everyone kind of goes through that phase, not finding clothes, and you're like, I just want to start my own brand. And it's so accessible these days, everyone has their own brand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, that was probably the first.
So you started to pay more attention to what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Around that time.
For sure. Yeah, I became very self-aware of, how I was dressing and stuff like that. And yeah, eventually just, ended up starting my own brand, and now we're here.
Cool. And how did you go about like making your first pieces? Did you kind of just like sew them yourself, or how did you design them, or what were they made out of?
Yeah, so the very first piece that I ever made that I branded Medical, I wore it to Touch Base in 2019, I think. Yeah, I think it was Touch Base 2019. And
so the brand's like still quite young.
It is. Look, the brand, this will be coming up to the 4th birthday this year. So it's a long time. It's also not a long time, in terms of businesses. The fact that I'm still doing it, and that
I think because my brain just like skips the COVID era, so kind of just feels like
COVID fucked everything.
Yeah.
So the first piece I ever made, I wore it to a festival, and my brother had a bunch of screen printing equipment because he's actually got his own brand called Turner Boko. Shout out Jules and Marshall. And they started their brand before me.
Oh, really? Wow.
And so my brother had all this screen printing equipment, and I asked him if he could screen print a shirt for me. I had a shirt that I got from the op shop. It was 6XL, so it was way too big. So I turned it inside out. I have like basic sewing knowledge, so I rehemmed the bottom so that it would like actually fit, like be the right length. And then just screen printed on the front and the back. The back print actually said, social media seriously harms your mental health, which ended up turning into a sticker. It was just something that I saw on Instagram. But yeah, that was the first piece that I ever made.
So is Jules your brother? Is he older than you, or are you the same age? Are you guys twins? I don't know.
We're twins, which is I feel like not many people know that. Everyone thinks that he's my younger brother. I think he does look. Maybe he has a baby face.
I can see the twins now. I didn't even know you guys were brothers until a bit later.
Yeah.
But was he into fashion? I mean, maybe a controversial question. Was he into fashion before you, and then you kind of got inspired, or was he more into like?
I'd say that our fashion journeys were very similar in terms of we both we weren't really into fashion that much. And then, as we got older, I guess, kind of explored it more. His brand originally, I'm sure if you got him on here, he'd have stories to tell you. His brand originally that he started with Marshall was like surfwear focused. So one of the reasons that I actually started my brand, I had a lot of event production experience running nightclub events with the guys that I started DJing with. So we were running events down in Mandurah for a few years, and I'd basically sit in on meetings with Jules and his partner, and using my branding and marketing experience from running events, I was giving them like a few tips, like, oh, you should do this instead. Why are you going to do this? Just a few things like that. And it made me realize, oh, I know a tiny little bit more than these guys. I want to start my own brand. Why don't I use that experience that I have? Because, marketing and branding and stuff, it's quite transferable between
for sure
things.
Yeah. And then I guess what was like the first time you actually made like a piece of clothing, like put it sort of all together?
So 2019 was when I did my first collection that I actually had produced with a factory.
Yeah. That was like so your first collection, you actually made the order, because I know you design the patterns and stuff, right?
Yeah. So, excuse me. That collection, I did the designs myself. I created the tech packs. I did all the measurements. It was all custom cut and sewn. And yeah, sent it off. Got it made. This one was made my first stuff was made in the Ukraine. Just a little bit random. And it wasn't perfect, but it was my first stuff, so that's fine.
I just had a thought that I was going to say earlier, like a little prediction maybe, because you were mentioning like Jules and Marshall were going to do like more surfwear brand. I think surfwear might be coming back. It might
really.
Be like, because I feel like when I was in primary school or whatever, people wearing like Billabong, Rip Curl,
yeah, for sure.
Volcom. And I feel like, with fashion, it always comes back around. I feel like maybe surfwear like that Billabong, Rip Curl, like might come back. Who knows? Anyway.
Yeah, true, like the board shorts and the rashies and stuff. Yeah, okay.
Little prediction there, but
we'll remember this in a few years.
Remember this podcast. So you made like the tech pack. And then did you obviously, like you mentioned, you learned from YouTube. So you like did research, like learn how to make like the patterns and stuff all from YouTube, and then sort of sent it off.
Yeah. So I'm completely self-taught design wise in terms of fashion and just, Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, sewing, all that kind of stuff. I've taught myself just because I always like to be hands-on and, be the person to actually make it. I feel like if you trust someone else to do something, they can't get inside your head and see exactly what you mean. I don't know if you've ever, got a logo done by a designer and you explain it and then it turns out nothing like what you expect.
It's just like almost, it's less effort just like creating it yourself because you know what you want. And then maybe, I don't know, did you kind of try to get other people to design, like if you like got graphic designer to make a logo and that was never really what you wanted and then you learnt, or you just jumped straight into?
In terms of logos, the very first logo that I ever had was actually made by a designer, but I didn't really love it, but I also didn't really know what I wanted. So, if you're not very clear on your vision, then you're not going to get a clear result anyway.
So you just started like learning the different Adobe platforms and then started creating it for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's one of the craziest feelings, to be so hands-on in terms of a product and create it from start to finish, know that you designed all the measurements, you chose the fabrics, you chose the exact fit, you did the campaign, it's a crazy feeling. And then for someone to actually buy that product, I can't even describe that. It's nuts.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm gonna find out about all that because I'm having an exhibition next month. So it'll be like, I've never really tried to sell my own product, but like my photography work for the past like 2 or 3 years, putting it in a book and then selling that. It was I'm sure maybe you felt the same. It was quite like almost nerve-wracking, like creating, like putting work into something that like, and then I don't know, seeing if people are going to love it or not.
100%.
Yeah, I'll find out as well.
Yeah, it's, you know, you put so much passion into a product or whatever it is, you know, and it's hard to know if people are going to appreciate that, you know.
I think especially as a creative, like a lot of creatives feel that way, like putting your work out there. I guess it's one thing putting your work out that like a lot of creatives feel that way, like they're kind of nervous to put their work out there and themselves out there as a creative because you'll be like judged on what you make. But then it's another thing to like also sell it as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is underappreciated as well, you know, is that what's like minimum wage, you know, like $20 or something like that. You know, if you're selling a t-shirt for like $80, that's essentially 4 hours of someone's work just for one t-shirt, you know?
Yeah.
So it still blows my mind when people, you know, buy my stuff and it, you know, all I can think is like, damn, this person spent their hard-earned money on something that I made. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's
crazy.
I think it's one of the most fulfilling things to have as a creative for someone to appreciate, and like when they buy it actually shows like they really truly appreciate because they're spending that hard-earned money on like a product that you made, and whether they're gonna wear it around the streets or like put it up in their house, it's it's an amazing feeling. It's one of the best feelings as a creative, I think.
No, absolutely.
And then I guess, did you start seeing people wearing your stuff maybe around the city here and there, or?
Yeah. You know, I think every clothing brand experiences this, you know, when your very first collection that you make, it pops off, you know, because you've just started it. You usually, you know, you'll sell out everything and it's sick. The second collection that you make, it usually underperforms because all your friends have bought the first collection.
It was the hype. Yeah. Like
exactly. You know what I mean?
I got it. Yeah.
And then you kind of have a moment where you realize like, okay, if I'm going to, you know, if I want this to be a legit business, it's got to be more than just my friends supporting it, you know, just for the sake of, you know, they're friends with me.
It's interesting because I think even I can have this perspective as a photographer, like when you're shooting, when you're just starting photography, you're shooting stuff that you like, that you enjoy. Oh yeah, this is cool, this is cool, it's cool. But then if you, you know, maybe your end goal is to have like a product or an exhibition, kind of has to be received well by other people. It can't just be like yourself that's kind of projected in this work. You've got to be like, okay, how can other people relate to this? Are other people going to enjoy this product? So it's probably the same with clothing as well. Just, you know, I think it's got to be maybe half your kind of view and your take, but then also like half you're thinking about the consumer as well.
Yeah. It's, you know, it comes down to what you want your brand to be. You know, if your brand is a passion project that you're just making stuff because you love it, then, you know, it doesn't matter if people don't buy it, you know, or if it's not well received by the public, you know, because you're making something you really love. But if you want to make a brand a business, you know, then...
Yeah, like a career.
Exactly. Then you have to consider what people want as well as what you want, and then you have to compromise between them. Because at the end of the day, if you're not selling products and you're not turning a profit, it actually happens. And something that I was experiencing, you know, is I was making products that I really liked, and then they'd still sell, but they wouldn't sell as much as, you know, I was expecting. And that creates an issue in cash flow, which means it makes it a bit harder to buy the next collection, you know?
Yeah.
And then it also makes you refrain from creating stuff that you like because you're like, fuck, what if no one buys this?
Yeah.
So I've actually reached kind of like a medium recently, which has helped a lot. And I released these t-shirts, actually the one that I'm wearing now. It just has medical, really simple on like the collars, like collarbones. And this is essentially just like a entry-level product, you know, to be a part of the brand, support the brand at the lowest cost. And releasing this product actually has enabled me to have like incredible cash flow. Because, you know, people, they can fuck with this shirt, you know, and they can buy it, and it actually comes in a 2-pack. So you get a black one and a white one together. And then creating this allows me to, you know, take the pressure off and create the pieces that I actually really want to make. And then they can kind of like coexist, you know, because I'm not relying on the other products for cash flow. And what I realize is that this is actually what almost every brand does. I felt like I've had to learn the hard way how to run a clothing business.
This is it's literally what every creative brand or even creative personal brand does. This is the smoke and mirrors. Like, even for myself as a photographer, my personal brand is like, currently it's kind of like my night photography, which is like I'm going out, I'm taking like cool pictures of cars or like alternative models with like red lighting, But I'm not actually, I barely make much money off of that. Like some artists, they book me for that, want that style. But primarily my bread and butter is like corporate shoots, or like could be products that someone's selling, or like just not, just corporate stuff that makes money.
No, 100%.
It's not my passion. I mean, I enjoy doing it. Like sometimes it's like fashion shoots, but it's more like corporate-y fashion shoots. But yeah, people probably think that I make money through like that night photography, more creative stuff. But it's kind of, it relates to your brand in a way. I mean, like you found a happy medium because you're selling like these black and white shirts and you've got your branding on there and your personal design. But it's a good like staple piece to like for people to purchase. But then I guess you can also have your more creative side, and it's also the idea behind digital creators is actually like digital is more like business side, creators is more creative side. So you got to have the business, what makes money, and then creative is like more creative control. So
100%.
So every creative business, as you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. You know, even in music, you know, I've got friends that are musicians, and you know, you make fuck all money from Spotify streams and whatever. You know, some of them have I think they're called sync deals. It's where you make a song or sell a song to a business, you know, for an ad or for Netflix or whatever like that. And that's actually how you make big bucks, you know. You don't make as much money selling your own music as you do selling a song to a car company or something like that. So it's crazy.
For sure. Even there's some DJs that I know of that like, they're not making too much with Spotify, but when I was making more vlogs, there's platforms that sell commercial free music.
Yeah, exactly.
They create music to sell on those platforms, and you can actually make bank, I think, as a music producer selling your work to these
sites
like Artlist and Soundstripe and all that.
Yeah.
And then they download. You probably, I don't know how much you make per download, but that's it looks like they're just like making all this money off like maybe playing gigs or whatever, or Spotify, but really they're making money off just selling their work. They're like to commercial free sites. Yeah,
it's tough out here, man.
Or even like another example is like being a DJ. Probably you can relate, or know other DJs that their brand is more like hype festivals, whatever. That's what they have in the Instagram feed, but in reality they're probably DJing at weddings or like stuff like that to make money. It's
funny that you touched on that because that's exactly me. You know, my personal brand is definitely, you know, a festival club DJ. If you've ever seen me play, you know, I'm very high energy. Yeah. Very intimate crowd engagement. But yeah, you know, this last year I got into DJing weddings. Not something that I ever thought I'd get into. And I did it because the money was really good.
Yeah.
You know, they're relatively easy. It's not the most fun gig. They're still fun. It's obviously not as fun as a festival.
Yeah, it's like, but I enjoy wedding photography as well.
But yeah, the money it's ludicrous. It's crazy. So
yeah, and I think it's just a part of the journey. Like, and it's a smart way to go about things. Like, how can you do something you love? I mean, we're still doing something we love, and it's making money. It's not 100% like the full creative control that we want, but it's like helping us on our journey to, I guess the end goal is to like be 100% in control of like your creativity and making money off that as well.
For sure. I got into weddings, probably last year, and I'm actually pulling back out of them at the moment. I'm just finishing off a few more in the next few months, but yeah, I'm stripping back everything and just going full into the brand in terms of like medical.
Okay, cool.
Because even though weddings are, it's good money, it's, it takes a lot of time and energy away from the other parts of my life, like doing the brand, especially doing the brand by myself and doing the marketing, the designing, all that. So.
Yeah, I think it's, if you're ready, just like go all in, because you'll be surprised at like how well you can do when your entire focus is on that.
For sure.
And then kind of going back into the DJing a bit, you mentioned some like festivals that you played, Groovin the Moo, Origin Field. So did you get these gigs from just networking and getting your brand out there, or what kind of helped you if there's other people into music listening? Yeah,
so the first festival that I ever played was Groovin the Moo in 2018, I think. And that was Nick, who's the guy that I was originally running, I was DJing with in Mandurah. He was actually like managing me and Brody as a duo called Hanzo. We were actually producing like electronic music.
Oh, you actually made like your own music?
Yeah, so we were making kind of like, don't want to compare it to Flume, but it was that kind of like Triple J electronic experimental, kind of like trap sounds just before trap kind of like died. And we actually got out, we played at Groovin the Moo on the Mootown stage, which was awesome. And then I think the next year I played at Origin Fields. I actually won a DJ competition.
Oh yeah.
So It's funny because I'd never entered a DJ competition before, and then they had one, and I just thought, sure, let's just see how it goes. And it was like one where you make a mix and then you get votes. So I made a mix, got through, had all my friends and stuff vote for me. I ended up getting on, and my best friend at the time, Jane the Virgin, she's been going off at the moment, playing heaps of drum and bass gigs. I actually taught her how to DJ way back. And so me and her actually both won this competition together, and we both got to play at Origin, which was crazy.
Wow.
And then, the next year they invited me back to Origin, just without winning a competition, which was like a crazy feeling.
They kind of knew who you were at that point.
Yeah, so that was awesome. And then, I played a few other festivals like Seasons, Pineapple Club.
And you've also been playing like a lot of clubs, obviously. So like, where have you mostly been playing?
The clubs that I play the most at would be Butterfly, Butterfly 73, Club Humble, Dime at Barbez. I've been playing there a lot. I play at Magnet House every now and then.
He's all over. He's on.
Yeah, you know what? It's being a DJ is weird. You're kind of spread out between all these different venues.
For sure. I kind of want to jump into the website, because like, did you design and build this website yourself, or
my personal website?
The medical.
Oh, the medical website. Yeah. So it's from a template.
Yep.
But then I basically built on the template myself.
And what platform are you running it on?
Shopify. If you're thinking of starting a brand, don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Just use Shopify. I started not on Shopify. I was actually using WordPress and WooCommerce, it's basically free when you get hosting for a website. So instead of paying $50 a month, I was paying $5 a year for a website, which I thought was awesome. But it was incomparable. Yeah. Shopify is expensive just because it puts everything in the right places, and it's so easy to use. So
yeah, I definitely recommend Shopify, especially for like an e-com brand as well. I used Squarespace for my photography site just because I couldn't figure out how to display my photos well on Shopify, just because I think it's so e-commerce.
Yeah,
based.
it's definitely more e-commerce than portfolio or traditional website based.
Yeah, so I'm like having, because I wanted to show my photos as well in like a gallery, and I don't think Shopify had that. I might try it out again, but yeah, so I just went Squarespace, which I think it's a happy medium for like a portfolio site and a product site, but definitely for just pure products, Shopify is just like easy. It integrates with everything.
Yeah. I've recently been using Squarespace to build my own personal brand website. So that's tyeturner.com.
DJing or designing or?
It's for all of it. So I just wanted to basically have a resource or like a portfolio that shows my DJing, it shows medical, and it shows other kind of work that I've done. You know, I've been blessed to model for, you know, some like big brands like Puma,
really?
Nike. I did some merch production for NBL and Sneakerland.
Wow.
And just like a few random things like that, you know. So I just kind of wanted to put that somewhere for people to see, you know, and if I'm able to work with more artists through that. It's one of those things, you know, like people don't know what you've done unless you tell them. So I just wanted to create a resource where if someone wanted to look up, you know, what I've done or how I can help them or how we can work together, you know, you can see it all online.
And yeah, maybe at some point, just like how you have those, you know, those big names like Louis Vuitton as a designer, like maybe you even have your own line of like Tye Turner. Could be.
Yeah.
That could be pretty cool. Also, yeah, modeling for Puma and Nike, that's pretty big. How did that happen?
So the Puma gig, I was working with Taku.
Yep.
So Taku, he's actually Perth based, and he runs an agency called Pretty Soon. So Jess Farahinga,
yep,
she reached out to me and was like, "Hey, they like your look. Would you be interested in modeling for this campaign?" And I was like, "For sure." So we shot a campaign for these shoes called the Wild Riders, and that went really well. I'm sure we can put up the photos if you want to do that afterwards.
Yeah, do you know what I should search?
I don't know where you can find them online, but I'll be able to I'll plug it so you can
Yep.
And then we actually did another campaign a few months later, and that was for Amazon. So it was for the Amazon Puma store, like on the Amazon website.
Oh, okay.
And that was just modeling like general products.
Like an e-commerce.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was pretty cool to be involved in that.
Did you see where your photos went live? Like where did they go live?
No. So this is the thing, right? Like we shot this content, but the way like big brands work is that they get a lot of content done, and sometimes it doesn't get posted. Sometimes it does. So I wasn't able to find any of the photos that we did online, which is like, it's a bit weird. Like, you know, I still got paid from it. Yeah. The guy still got paid from it, whether they didn't get it back in time or whatever.
True.
But yeah, I was on this campaign. Maybe it's on like, you know,
a billboard in like China.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know like where the photos went. You know, sometimes it doesn't go on the Instagram. Sometimes it goes somewhere else. You know, it could have been like a sponsored ad. Mm-hmm. You know, that's timed out or something.
And was that like the same sort of? Oh, you said Nike was for the Amazon, and then Puma was for.
No, so that was all Puma stuff. The Nike stuff was JD Sports actually reached out to me to shoot content for them for the World Cup. So that was that October, November, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not a football guy.
Not football. That grand final match, that was wild though. The final, the World Cup final. Did you watch it? Bro,
I don't.
Was what?
I'm sorry to all my football fans, but I can't get around it.
Damn.
I'm a basketball fan.
Okay. I don't even watch that much soccer. I played as a kid, but that was like the best final I've ever seen of any sport. Anyway. I'll just give it one more, bro. Yeah, anyway. So yeah, Nike.
So they reached out to me to do a campaign, and they basically wanted me to shoot a campaign with a photographer. So it was essentially this similar thing to what I did with Puma.
Yeah.
And yeah, take photos for them, send them to
So
them.
is Nike through JD Sport? You're wearing Nike through JD Sport, or
Yeah. So Nike through JD Sport for the World Cup campaign. So it was like all Nike branded stuff.
did you see where those photos went?
No, so
Damn.
yeah, it's
What's going on?
but you know what? It's a very common thing. Like a lot
Okay.
of my friends that have done stuff, with big brands, they get, their marketing budgets are ridiculous.
Yeah, so they
they
just
have
have all
thousands
these,
and thousands. If a campaign that costs them a few thousand,
Like
they don't get the photos back in
20,
time.
30K, it's like whatever. Just
Yeah, and you know what? It's ridiculous because these photos, I charge them what I thought was a lot.
yeah,
But to them, it's not a lot.
yeah.
You can. This is for anyone that's
Up your
working with
prices,
big brands. Yeah, up your prices. Corporate brands have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah, something I've done recently is just like set my prices more than what I've ever had them, and just like keep it that way. I think it's just a place that you naturally get to. Is like, because when you're first starting photography, you're working for cheap. You're running here, like, because you're like, the harder I work, the more money I get. But then you kind of realize that you want to work smarter, not harder. So you have like a higher price because like you've worked hard on your skills. You're kind of there. So it was just a feeling that, okay, I'm going to set my price here. So then I'm working sort of less running around, but then like you have a higher price. So is that something similar that you've done with like your DJ stuff or?
Yeah, DJing's a bit weird when it comes to gigs and I'd say like fees. It differs drastically depending on the type of gig. If you're booked as just like a DJ, or if you're booked as an artist, like as yourself, there's like different factors. For example, a gig like Seasons, let's say, right? Or like a festival which has local artists, they're not inclined to pay you an exorbitant amount because everyone wants that gig, right?
Gotcha.
It's a competitive thing.
Yeah.
And they're not booking, even though, I'm going to put my name on it or whatever, they're not necessarily booking me as Tye Turner. They're just booking me as a DJ on the hip hop stage.
Yeah.
Saying that, they do pay their DJs well, don't get me wrong. But
it's people might think, the bigger the show, the more money you can charge, but it's kind of like who's bringing the value here.
Exactly. If you get booked as, and this is why everyone always pushes to be a producer instead of a DJ, that's kind of the next natural step. Because if you're a producer and you can get booked under your name, you can charge more, because people are booking you for your specific sound. For a DJ, like a local DJ, the average hourly rate is like 80 to 100 an hour. And it's very hard to break out of that bracket because
there's a lot of DJs.
There's a lot of DJs, and if you don't want to do it, they'll just find someone else that wants to do it for that price, You don't have as much leverage.
I think it's because, one, you're just playing other people's music in a club. It's not like you're creating the music and playing your own stuff. I think that's probably where the money is. I think it's a very difficult market, I presume, to get into, like being a DJ that produces your own music. And then you got to be big enough to be booked for a club to play your own music. Then there's less people like that. But for someone who just plays, club music, that's probably that's what a lot of DJs do. So
yeah. You've really got to be able to differentiate yourself from the other DJs. It's very competitive. Everyone's doing it. I think it's a skill that honestly everyone should have, because there's nothing better than having a party with all your friends, and you're all mixing back to back and stuff like that. That's amazing. But in terms of being an actual DJ, like at a club, you've got to do something different from everyone else. You know, you got to really stand out. Something that I've always done that's like true to my brand is, like I said, my stage presence and stage energy and crowd engagement is some of the best probably in Perth. You know, I may not be the actual best DJ, but I really do make an effort to engage with the crowd and get everyone involved. And, you know, that's why people book me, because they know that I'm going to bring the vibe no matter where it is.
That could be a point that sells you different to somebody else, like how you interact with the crowd, for sure. Yeah, because obviously there's skills with DJing, like, you know, getting the crowd engaged, or like that is not so much the music that you're playing as well. But I guess like mixing comes into it, and reading the crowd, and yeah, it's, you know, anyone can DJ, man. It's just counting to 4 over and over again. You know, I've taught so many people how to DJ, whether it through, you know, friends, or I actually ran a GTM workshop a few years ago. I was teaching at Your Shot last year when they came to Perth. You know, I've taught so many people. It's not a hard skill to learn. So you've got to do something different. If you are, how are you tying in DJing with your fashion brand, or your direction as a personal brand?
I think naturally music and fashion are very intertwined. You know, if you think of like the biggest musicians in pop culture, you know, they're all known as fashion icons as well. And it's not just hip hop, you know. Think of like Harry Styles and
literally everybody. Everyone has their own
right?
Yeah.
Everyone wears clothes. And, you know, the fashion that we're into, that's not the only fashion that exists. You know, there's anything that you wear can technically be called fashion. But yeah, so I've played a lot of different genres over kind of like my DJ career. And
what kind of genres have you gone into, and what are you sort of playing now?
Yeah, so I started as a trap DJ. So that was 2016. That was Bauer, Boombox Cartel, What's Or Not, Slumberjack, all those kinds of guys. And I was playing a lot of that. Then I went into dubstep, and I was playing, I think the biggest show I played, I supported Bad Clat and Ominous. I played a sold out villa, which is like just over 1,000 people. That was crazy. Played big party sets, played at like Seasons on like the party stage or whatever. And then most recently I played Bassline, which is like real UK sound, but it's still quite like heavy. It's like quite high energy.
Yeah, that's becoming quite popular, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely become really popular. And then now I've settled on being mainly a hip hop focused DJ. I've always, you know, I grew up listening to hip hop. It's always been I'd say my favorite genre of music. You know, if I'm like driving in the car, you know, I'm going to be listening to like
the go-to.
Yeah. I'll be listening to like old school R&B, you know, driving in the car. I think that's my roots, and I think that's the most closely tied to streetwear, which is what I'm into, and I just kind of realized that's how I want to combine it, I guess.
Yeah. I want to jump into the website and just check out what you got on there, and maybe talk about the designs behind some of the pieces.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So we've got obviously like the black and white tees here.
Yeah.
So this is like you buy this one order and you get 2 in 1 pack sort of thing. I guess we can talk about this style shirt because you know it's the one you're wearing at the moment. So what process did you go with like choosing this design and this style?
So all of my products are cut and sewn, meaning that they're custom. The fabric, the fit, the stitching, the labels, everything is designed or curated by me. And that's just because even though it's a t-shirt and it's like the most basic garment, you still want it to fit a certain way. One of my brand values for Medical is that the products are exclusive to Medical. You know, if you want to get this t-shirt that fits this certain way, that's this fabric, you have to come to us. So the t-shirt, those t-shirts being the way they are, I basically just wanted to create a simple product. I don't know if you've noticed that blanks has been like, it's like a trend at the moment. Everyone's doing blanks.
Like a staple piece. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, I think Represent were probably the first to really push it.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, white t-shirt, white embroidered Represent, you know, on the chest. So it's branded, but it's not really branded. And then a lot of other brands have been copying that. And at first I was like, you know, I was pulling
kind of basic.
Yeah, I was pulling away from it because, you know, it's simple. But if that's what people want, you know, we were talking about.
Yeah, that's what I mean. My daily is just like a white t-shirt, and it's either white or black for me. Like I'm trying to get into more color this year, but it's just easy to throw in a white or a black t-shirt because like
exactly.
I don't want to have to think too much, and I want to, you know, look stylish. So black and white kind of works with everything.
Yeah, and you don't, you know, I love graphic t-shirts, but you don't always want to wear a graphic t-shirt. So I pretty much made those products as the most simplified branded product that I could make. You know, it's still got the logo on there if you want to like represent and like show off the brand, but essentially it's just, yeah, the signature fit and feel of like a medical t-shirt.
I just feel like just looking at what I'm thinking, because I love a good blazer. It's almost like if you're going and hanging out, just going around the shops, or like it's more like streetwear. So you're not going to wear that blazer and you're going to show like more of a graphic. And then like if you go out and you dress up a bit, maybe you have a blazer and you don't want it to show too much graphic, so you got it on the collar. So that's is that exactly what it is?
No, I mean that wasn't intentional, but that's a
Makes
perfect
sense,
way
yeah.
to put it for sure.
Cool. And should I just go to the shop all?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because your best designs often are the ones that you put the least amount of effort into.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can relate in terms of photography, you know, and you just take a photo and it ends up being really good.
Sometimes it's I'd take it and I'm just like, or I get home from doing a shoot and I was like, oh, I got nothing. And then it ends up being like some of my best stuff later on, and just like, which is kind of the latest graphic stuff, maybe these cybernetics.
Yeah, cool. So those vests, I did mostly myself. I worked a little bit on them with Alex Aitken. He's a graphic designer.
Yep.
He just kind of like, he was there when I was making it and he was giving me some pointers. But yeah.
What kind of went into that? Do you know much about like what went into that whole, the graphic or?
Like the design for it?
Yeah.
So I still had the concept for the design. He just helped a bit with the composition. Going back to technology and stuff like that, you know, as we were talking about earlier, one of the reasons that I started Medical, you know, was I had this love for technology growing up, and I thought that was going to be, you know, a software engineer or whatever. And so Medical was kind of a way of like paying homage to the positive impact of technology on my life. You know, me and my brother, we played games, you know, growing up, you know, every day, and that's how we bonded, you know, and I'd watch movies with my family. It's stuff that we all did, but I really wanted to, take that feeling and put it into the clothing, you know. The blue color is obviously, you know, like a blue screen on a computer. And I've really like adopted that to the brand, and it's pretty like synonymous with the brand now. I think like if you see the blue color, you know that it's Medical, which is cool. This design in particular, just going back to the whole technology thing, I just wanted to show this idea of like robots in love. I think I'd recently watched Ex Machina. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I haven't seen it. But isn't there a Japanese designer that's also deals with that concept. I need to find his name.
Hajime Soriyama.
Yeah. Soriyama.
So, okay, this is actually a funny story. I probably shouldn't even say this. So this image that I was using on this vest was actually an image that I got from another failed design from a Fiverr designer.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically reworked it and took this like robot face and put it on there. Obviously did some adjustments to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't until after I'd created it and I'd released it that I was like, I want to find out where this photo is actually from, just to know, you know, who made it. And then I found out that it's actually a Hajime Soriyama robot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Obviously, you can't tell because of the way it's been manipulated.
Yeah.
And I'm not, you know, I've sold them out now, so I won't be rerunning that graphic or anything like that. So don't sue me. But yeah, Hajime Soriyama, amazing artist. He does the sexy robots.
Yeah. You never know what you're gonna find on Fiverr. Like, I don't know.
It's, you know what, Fiverr's like, you tell yourself it's gonna be fine every single time, and then it's just the worst. I don't know if I'm the only one that has terrible experiences on Fiverr, but
yeah, I guess you never know where. Like, sometimes I bet it's even like you're not even dealing with the design. It's just like someone's paying someone to like design. So like, you never know. But I mean, it's one way of doing things for sure.
If you really don't know any designers, you know, in your area around you, go to Fiverr. But I would recommend, if you can, find designers, find people that are local to you that you can meet up with in person and work with, because the product's going to be better. You're going to pay a little bit more, but you'll be able to have that communication so much crisper. This is just a tip for anyone that's like getting into clothing and stuff like that.
Communication is key.
Yeah, communication is so important.
No, I really like this design. I think the blue and the pink just work really well, and it just really stands out. And I've seen the way you've styled it with like the white shirt and that sort of thing, and I'm like, yeah, it looks really good.
I think knitwear's become very staple to the brand. It was actually an accident. I never intended to make knitwear.
Well, I guess it kind of ties into the concept of, I mean, you can wear knitwear out, and then also knitwear can be quite fancy if you're going to an event. So it kind of ties into that concept.
Yeah, I like the I've liked building, you know, kind of two sides to the brand, having the streetwear aesthetic, but also being able to dress it up, you know, if you're going to a dinner or, you know, being able to wear it with trousers and go somewhere fancy, like you said. And even, you know, I think one of the things that I started when I started the brand is that I want to create a uniform for myself. And uniform was actually a big part of the initial branding. And essentially I wanted to create my own uniform for my own office or my own job, you know, that I'm going to every day. Yep. So that was an idea. Excuse me. When I started. And so, yeah, obviously uniforms are quite formal per se.
I think just going off from like what I sort of wear, like as a photographer, like, you know, just as being a photographer in Perth, like I want to wear something casual because, like, I don't know, Perth, I guess being a photographer in Perth is a bit more casual than if you're like, you know, being a photographer in Paris or Japan or whatever. We're kind of a bit more casual here. So I want to still look professional but also be casual. So I think that's why I sort of go with the, you know, white tees and black pants or whatever, but it's still casual. So I think just having that approach of, being, you could wear it like in the street but also dress it up a bit. I think that's really cool. It's like almost, very contemporary, sort of more high-end streetwear, but you can like style it sort of however you want. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
For sure. I mean, I still consider my stuff streetwear because that's kind of, you know, the roots of the fashion that I liked. but it's also kind of not strictly streetwear, because when I think of streetwear, I think of like tracksuits, you know, and that's I think the bare bones of traditional streetwear is, you know, the joggers and the hoodies, and that's not really what I'm focused on. So it's kind of like, it is a streetwear brand. It's also not quite a streetwear brand, but somewhere in between.
For sure. Have you got the photo shoots on here as well? Maybe from like, is there any photo shoots in particular you want to, that we should look at?
Let me check what's updated.
I'll just switch to. Yeah. Oh, you want
if you go to, I think this one, I think Interstellar.
That's the latest?
Oh, the latest one that I've got updated. That's my bad. So this one was shot last year. I actually shot this campaign myself.
Wow.
On, yeah, so you can add a photographer to my resume. I shot this on an Olympus MJU2.
Oh yeah, I've got that camera.
Yeah.
I'd say it's one of the best, if not, I think maybe the best little point and shoots you can get.
Oh, I think 100%. I think it's
the best.
Like, it's the best in terms of you can have no experience and it's so hard to mess up the photos.
Yeah, and it's a very nice, clear. You get nice, clear shots. I'd say it's competitive as the Contax T2, but that's like double the price.
Exactly. For the price, it's amazing. This one, I think this was just shot on like, I'm gonna say like
400,
like Fuji Superior 400 or something like that.
So you just kind of like found a white wall.
This is actually in our photo studio. Tying into like the technology kind of stuff. I like bought this old TV. I've had it for a while actually. I've been using it in a lot of shoots. And we had a camcorder. So I bought a cable that actually streams the camcorder into the TV.
Oh,
so if you scroll down, you'll actually see it here. It's like he's in the TV, streamed straight from there.
That's cool.
And yeah, it's kind of like,
it relates to technology. It's like a cool effect, and
yeah. This piece was called Interstellar, and the kind of message behind this one was me really pushing blue as the color for the brand. Before last year, I hadn't really pushed blue as like a core theme or like a core part of the brand, I guess.
Yeah.
So Interstellar, being like the voyage to discover, the unknown, to make a change, whatever. That was like, okay, we're putting it out there. Blue
is the color, part
of the brand.
It's a very unique blue. It's a very powerful blue. It's very kind of like a deep. It's not like a dark blue, but I find it very potent blue.
Yeah. So
and it reminds me of, say, the 90s Windows. Something about the 90s Windows backgrounds. I think that one of the default backgrounds was like that blue.
Yeah. So the blue for the brand is actually, if you had like RGB values, it's no red, no green, 255 blue.
So it's the default.
It's 100% blue, which I'm a little bit like on the fence about it because it is like the default blue, but that is also the strongest, most bold in your face that it can be. So I think like you said, it's powerful.
To technology.
Absolutely.
Well. Like what else? What other like what technology were you into? But you mentioned games and movies, but like were you into kind of coding or like jailbreaking your iPhone or like stuff like that as a kid? I used to do a bit of jailbreaking when I was like in high school.
No, I wouldn't say I jailbroke my iPhone. I don't know. I just have like a lot of tech nostalgia, like listening, watching home videos on VCR. I don't know if you can relate to that, but like.
So even in today's age, you're still do
No,
that sometimes?
not anymore.
Oh, you mean
But
the nostalgia of technology?
of like, you know, growing up and
Okay,
this. I don't know. It's definitely like in our day and age now, you can record a video, take a photo anywhere, and in a sense that decreases the significance of that photo. You know, whereas back when it was harder to take photos and stuff, you know, videos were so valuable because you didn't have many of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You mean like when you have a film camera and you have certain number of photos, so that photos are more valuable because there's less of them.
For sure. And I'm not saying like that I don't like where technology's gone. I love where technology's gone, but I just, you know, that period of me growing up, you know, and CDs, VCRs, USB, MP3 players, LimeWire, you know, iPod touches, all that kind of stuff. I loved that. Oh, what have we got here?
Oh, I was just trying to play
1.
I don't know if you can hear that. I don't think I connected the sound properly, but it reminded me of the PlayStation 1 sound, or
Absolutely.
like those PS1 sounds, like very nostalgic. I should probably make one of the podcast sounds, but yeah, there's like a certain vibe to that. And I think, yeah, it's interesting how in fashion, I think that happens with a lot of brands. Like maybe growing up, you into Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or Dragon Ball Z, and then like when you grow up, like a lot of the designers kind of use that as inspiration because like everybody's looking back on their nostalgic kind of moments as inspiration. So it's kind of like a similar approach to what you did.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I want to show with my brand, like, you know, take nostalgia in terms of like, you know, the things that I used to love, but I also want to show the things that I like going forward. You know, I think the cybernetics department, which was my excuse for making graphic t-shirts, you know, I invented like a section of the brand dedicated to graphic t-shirts. And that's all about experimenting with like robotics and stuff like that. So there's like the skeleton, there's like the spider. There's one that just says cybernetics department on it. So yeah, it's like future and past. It's all
Inspiration.
All tech focused, yeah.
Okay. And then you mentioned you went to Paris a few years ago for Fashion Week.
Yeah.
Tell us about that trip.
Okay, so that was 2020, right before the pandemic. Technically, the pandemic had like started, but this was when we were like going over there. People were like, "Oh, coronavirus! Like, what the hell is that?" You know, no one really knew what was going on, so we were fine when we were there. And yeah, that was about 6 months after I'd started my brand, so it was brand new. I was wearing a few medical things, but I wasn't showing it off to anyone. You know what I mean? It's
the first pieces, yeah.
Yeah, I think Ed was, you know, we'd meet a few people and Ed would be like, "Oh, this is Tye. He's got his own brand." And I'd just kind of look at him and I'd be like, I don't want to show them an Instagram profile with like 500 followers. You know what I mean? Like, you know, everyone starts projects and they don't usually see them through, you know, so I didn't want to show them something that you know, and they're just like, "Oh, he's not going to do this." But yeah, we went to Paris in 2020, January. I went with Ed and Sil. Ed was he goes every year, twice a year. Yeah, Edward Maradona from Cabinet Noir. So he runs his own store, and because of that, he goes and buys clothes over there. So basically...
So he's sourcing clothes. And he's like checking out the brands, being like, "Oh, do I want this in my store?" Sort of thing, yeah.
So the way that big brands on that scale work is basically they'll plan their collection 6 months or more in advance. So for autumn, winter, it'll be 6 months before. And they'll show at one of the fashion weeks, and they'll show their upcoming collection in a showroom. And so buyers for potential stores such as Cabinet Noir, you know, boutique stores anywhere around the world will go to these stores, view the pieces, and then choose which ones they want to stock for the upcoming season.
So like before it's officially released, they'll see it, and
so you'll see the garments before they're released. So that was really cool.
That's kind of, is that the whole idea of a fashion show in a way? Like you're seeing the garments before they release, and the buyers are all sitting around looking at it most of the time, or
I'd say the showroom's a little bit different to the runway show.
also it wasn't so much a show; it was just like a private.
Yeah, okay. So there's two main parts. There's the actual runways, which is the shows where they show off a certain number of looks and they create, like a theme, and it's a show, that people go to. And then there's the showrooms, which will be a building with all the racks of the upcoming collection set up, and the buyers will have appointments and go talk to the sales team, and then figure out what they want to order. And in those showrooms, they want you to buy, so they look after you really well. We were there with Ed, me and Sylvester Nang of Banks, and you go into the showroom. We went to a few different ones. We did Mason Kitsune, Byredo, Stamped. There was a few more, but they give you sparkling water. They give you little gifts. They're so friendly. They're talkative. We did Axel Arregato as well. No back rubs, but I'm sure they would have given you one if you asked. But yeah, they really want you to buy. So that was a really cool experience being involved in that. We also went and saw some shows. We went to the Kid Super show. Shout out to Britt McGovern. She's working with Kid Super, and so she got us into this show, which is normally invite only. And you've probably seen Kid Super's like going crazy now. Colm Delane recently designed a Louis Vuitton collection, which went off.
So Kid Super, he was like sort of gained a lot of attention recently.
Yeah, back then he wasn't gaining a lot of attention. His show was very low key. Did he become like a director somewhere? Or like why was he in the news recently? Do you know? So he's done a few things. He won the an LVMH prize, which is essentially LVMH being the conglomerate that owns Louis Vuitton, Hennessy, and Moet Chandon, I think. Anyway, they have a prize where they give away money to worthy designers to help them, start boost their brand. So he actually won a prize through that. So much, a few thousands and thousands of dollars or whatever. So that was probably the first thing that put him on. Then he did a runway show in Paris where the runway was actually an auction, and the paintings actually turned into the dresses. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah, I might have seen that. That was pretty cool.
She literally stepped through the painting and then walked down the runway. It was crazy. I did see that. Yeah. And then most recently, after Virgil passed, Colm Delane, he guest directed the runway. So he kind of used his influence and then also incorporated Virgil's like design aesthetic, and then did the runway.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, cool guy.
I want to talk about maybe some failures that you might have had, like having your own brand. Like I know you work with people overseas who are like taking care of your stuff, and you're like doing bigger orders and stuff like that. So like, is there any failures? I'm pretending not to know what it was.
Yeah, okay. So here's a story. Here's a story for everyone. This is how I lost $26,000, which is a lot of money. Basically, when I started my brand, it probably would have been 2020. So 6 months. This is after I got back from Paris. 6 months or so into the brand, and still not quite sure what I wanted to do. And I wasn't really in the cycle of, when you're making clothing, you make it, and then as soon as you make that, you got to make more. It's a never-ending cycle of, continuously making garments. And I didn't really tap into the cycle. So I basically found this brand online they were from London, and they promised me production, design. I'd have a production manager like watching over my stuff. Things were going to cost more, but they were going to look after everything. They were going to make sure that the products were schmick. And me being young, naive, not lazy, but, wanting to get things done,
Well, they sounded trustworthy.
Exactly. And, that's the thing is that I'm not one to...
It's basically a scam then. You basically got scammed. Then.
Essentially, I got scammed.
We gonna name drop these boys?
Okay. If should I name drop them?
Yeah. I think it's because they will protect other people.
Okay, they were called Baxter House, and they're from the UK. They claim to be based in London, produced in London. So, anyway, I started working with them in March of 2020, and they said to me, "Okay, our minimums is 100 per unit, but the quality is going to be amazing. Everything's going to be amazing. It's going to be worth it." So I said, "Hell yeah, let's do it." Basically, we started working together, and then COVID happened. So they go, "Okay, we can't get stuff sent to you, but as soon as we open back in a few months, we'll get it going." And I already paid the deposit at this point, so I'm like, this sucks, but all right. We get to around June, July, and they're like, "Okay, our factory's open." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Can we get some samples done?" "Oh, yeah, we're working on it. Nothing. I don't receive samples until August, so 2 months after that. And the samples are nothing like what I asked for. I get the t-shirt and I'm like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, your cut and sew dimensions were similar to a blank, so we just gave you the blank." I'm like, "It's not what I asked for." They send me a hoodie. It's air, but I'm like, "Sure." And then some trousers. So we can actually get up on the screen the pieces. It's funny because people will recognize these pieces as like something that I sold without knowing the full story. Anyway, basically I started working with these people in March. It wasn't until November that I got the full collection. The t-shirts, had 2 different t-shirts. They weren't exactly what I wanted, but they were good enough to sell. The pants weren't exactly what I wanted, but they were good enough to sell. The hoodies, they'd actually changed the fabric in bulk production compared to the sample. And it was this weird neoprene wetsuit material. And the fit was weird. They changed the fit. They changed everything. And I couldn't sell this product. So I basically had 100 of these hoodies. I just had to scrap. I couldn't do anything with them. And that was hard. In terms of the other stuff, I'd already spent, like I said, $26,000 on this collection. No refunds available, no negotiating, When you're working on that international level, I was just a kid, 20, 22 or something. I'm not going to get lawyers involved, you know what I mean?
That's a lot of money.
And yeah, it was an expensive lesson. I had 100 of each piece and they sold, but, when I'm saying they sold, I probably sold like 20 to 30 of each piece. And I basically just had to take it on the chin. And yeah, I took that whole collection as a loss. I had all these hoodies that I couldn't sell, had all these t-shirts that weren't moving. You know what I mean? When you're a small brand, 100 units is a lot. And yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. It sounds to me what they might have done, just presuming, is like got all that money, ordered like your items with like some cheaper quality stuff, and then it looks like, yeah, they gave you what you wanted, but really they pocketed
100%.
Yeah.
And you know what? I found out as well, when they were shipping me the goods, they shipped them from Romania. So they weren't even shipped from London. And that's when I realized in my head, I'm like, they literally outsourced the production to Romania, which is a poorer European country. They made thousands. They probably made 20 grand off of me.
Yeah, and who knows who else they did.
And it's
too.
crazy because now where I'm at now, and I'm doing like larger clothing orders, I'm spending a fraction of the price of that. And I just realized, you know, you can be taken advantage of very easily if you don't know how much things should cost or what the procedures are or who to trust. But yeah, that's an expensive lesson to learn for sure.
For sure, yeah. I guess takeaway is, really maybe understand, like, especially if you're putting that much money in, I guess maybe talk to people who have worked with them before. It's very difficult with online, like working with online people, because it's not like person to person. You don't know who they are. Here in Perth, I guess you know the sort of network, so it's like you can trust people more. But online, I guess it's different. But I think just as creators, we all make mistakes. Unfortunately, that was like a huge investment, so that was like a big mistake. But moving forward, I'm sure you're much more streamlined with how you go about things.
I think it's going on what you're saying about, you know, asking other people. It's really weird because in clothing, everyone is such a gatekeeper. No one wants to give out the secret sauce. No one wants to tell other people how to do things. And that was me. I had friends that had clothing brands, and I'd reach out to them. Hey, how do I do this? How many pieces should I order? And people would just say, sorry, man, like you just got to figure it out for yourself. And I'm like, what? And that was normal. And so that actually led me to, you know, creating, I don't know if you've seen my TikTok, but, you know, on my TikTok, I post a lot of fashion design and clothing brand related tips and content because, you know, I want to enable other people to have brands and do stuff like that. You know, I was gatekept. People didn't give me this information. I had to learn it the hard way, and I don't want other people to experience that.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe if you didn't experience that, like reaching out to other people in the industry who like weren't sort of that open to helping you, you would have maybe felt more comfortable. Like, hey, like, do you know this? Like, should I do this? Like, reaching out for more advice, but you felt like you couldn't. So then you just went like, hey, I'm going to jump into this, drop 26K, and then you made that mistake. So now I guess you're selling these tech packs, like, and I guess you're showing, you know, a lot of your process for people to like help people. So I guess that's really good.
For sure. Yeah, the tech pack is just it's my first digital product that I've ever made.
$5, eh?
Yeah, $5. And it's the exact tech pack that I send to manufacturers. It's made in a spreadsheet in Excel. And yeah, that's one way for me to like give back to people. You know, being able to have access to that. If you ever message me on TikTok or Instagram relating fashion design content, I always get back to everyone as well. Because I want to enable other people to be able to do stuff.
Because at the end of the day, no one can like fully replicate what you're doing. Nobody understands your brand the way you do. Nobody like grew up with technology being the inspiration, or like grew up with your influences, which ties into the brand. So like no one could fully, copy that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, just like with photography, just because I give out the camera that I use, the settings that I use, the like the Lightroom filter that I use, doesn't mean they can go and literally, it's pretty impossible to take exact photos that I do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about the creative yourself.
Yeah, you know, I always say that, you know, it's I could teach you everything, but you still can't be me. You will still never be able to replicate what I do. Or if you do copy me, it will never be as good as me, you know, because you're copying. You're one step behind what I'm doing. But in that same sense, you know, I don't even get mad when people copy what I'm doing, because it means, one, that you're doing something right, but two, you're inspiring other people, you know. I think it's a bit selfish to, obviously, maybe if it's, you know, if it's a big design and there's a lot of money on the line, you know, something like that.
I guess, yeah, if it's, because I know there is some stuff in the fashion world where like, you know, if someone like literally copies one design and slaps on a t-shirt and then sells it for an amount, I can see that's not as ethical. But if it's to do with like knowing, that's like, I think that's not as ethical, because that's someone's creativity, and someone went through the creative process to create that design or that logo, whatever. But when it comes to just like simple advice, like with photography, like, oh, what settings did you use, or what camera do you use, or what lens? And it's not actually, I think that sort of simple stuff, that's fine.
Yeah.
'Cause it's about learning. It's like,
Yeah, a little bit, a bit different to like stolen work. But yeah, 100%. We should be helping each other, you know, especially in Perth.
yeah.
It feels like there's a lot of creators. There's not that many. So, you know, we need to help each other out.
Yeah,
and
we got to stick together, help each other.
exactly.
And then what's on the horizon for you in both your fashion world and your world of being a DJ as well? Like, what are your goals? And
So for medical this year, we're pushing knitwear really hard. I think knitwear has been something that, like I said, I kind of accidentally fell into. I was inspired by some Raf Simons pieces.
yeah.
Made my first knitwear.
Actually, I haven't seen many brands doing knitwear, and your stuff has been doing it like really well. Like, just putting on like a piece of knitwear and like some nice black pants and nice leather shoes. It's just like, yeah, again, you can kind of wear that casually, but also, you can wear that to nice events. So it ties in really well, and I've been loving the knitwear that you've been making
Yeah.
quite a bit. It's kind of, that's how, something I've seen Medical do, but not other sort of from other brands. Yeah.
Thanks. Knitwear design's really cool as well because it turns out really unique, you know, because it's made of individual knits or stitches, you know, as opposed to like a screen printed graphic where it's perfect. And I like that kind of characteristic of it. But yeah, definitely doing a lot of knitwear this year.
Winter's coming.
Exactly.
Couple months,
Winter's coming. Doing more accessories and kind of like home stuff as well. I just released some rugs. I don't know if you saw the CD rug.
Yep.
I want to do more stuff along the lines of that, you know, do an SD card, do a hard drive, that kind of stuff.
Actually that'd be cool. You should just tie in little accessories with the technology.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else you could do. Like would you do like bracelets, and would you get into jewelry?
100%. I want to get into jewelry.
Little SD card ring or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Look, there's so many different things that you can do that like it can be overwhelming, you know? And sometimes you just got to like strip it back and just focus on one thing at a time.
A lot of ideas, yeah.
But yeah, I've got a lot of ideas. One goal that I've always said to myself is I'm not stopping until I make shoes. That's always been on my wish list. I want to make a medical shoe, a sneaker, or a boots, that kind of stuff.
Here's an idea. Because I actually wanted to do this, but I don't know if I get around to doing it this year, or if I even get around to do it. But I don't know if you've seen 3D printed shoes.
Yes, I've been seeing them everywhere. So sick.
And I was like, damn, like that'd be so cool to just have a printer. You can just like print shoes. Then the ones that I've seen, I think it's difficult to get the right percentage of plastic or whatever it is to like create a shoe. But I've seen some ones that look pretty cool. And even if you just have like a shoe made that kind of works and lasts, like there's those Yeezy foam slides or something like that. That'd be cool. Also relates to the technology because it's like 3D printed. But
no, that's
try that.
No, I've definitely thought of doing that kind of stuff. I think 3D printing is a really cool market. I think Heron Preston had a shoe. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's like an orange slide he was working on that was like fully 3D printed. Helly DeMille had these like big chunky, they almost look like horse hoof. Like,
oh, really?
They were 3D printed. So yeah, it's a cool market.
3D printing could change the game. Like one, you can 3D print accessories like bracelets. You can even like make like the link that like links together. All of that with 3D printing, rings, 3D printed, shoes apparently. Like that's pretty cool. And then maybe in the future, if everyone has their own 3D printer and you kind of pattern a certain design or style, like you don't even have to go out or order something online. You can just like print it at home and then wear it.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of people talk about that before. That's a cool idea, you know.
Sure. So yeah, more knitwear and like accessories.
Yeah, more knitwear, more accessories, and also this year I'm focusing on community building as well. I think that's an underrated feature for any kind of brand, is your community and cultivating them and making them feel included and special, you know?
Yeah,
like
for
people who's the best brands that did it, you know, like Supreme, probably like the OG community brand, you know.
How did they do that? How did they like create a community?
They're a skate brand. So, you know, they cultivated that skate community to the next level, you know, that it literally expanded past skaters, you know, to make everyone who wasn't a skater want to be a skater.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to be a part of the brand. And yeah, I think community is such an important thing that we can often neglect, you know. You can forget that your customers are real people. Like I said, they spend their hard-earned dollars on you. And you should put in that extra effort, you know, to make them feel valued. Because if you can...
A part of it, part of something, yeah.
You've probably heard of, you know, 1,000 true fans, you know. That's 100% true. You know, if you can have people that fuck with you on that level and they want to like ride with you forever, that's how you're going to grow your brand to the next level.
So how are you going to grow your community, like the medical community? Do you have any ideas or plans for that?
At the moment, I'm working on events. I think events are a great way of bringing people together in the physical sense, you know, so everything's not just strictly online, because we do live kind of like strictly online. I did a boiler room for my birthday last month.
Yeah.
And that went amazingly.
Yeah. Tell us about that, because Jules came on for a set or something as well.
Yeah.
Is that his first set?
That was his first ever DJ set. So it was my 25th. So halfway through my 20s, which it hit me pretty hard, to be honest. I was like, damn, 25.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do something cool. And so I reached out to Jules. I was like, let's do a boiler room event, you know, get all of our friends in a warehouse. And yeah. And then Jules was like, cool. If you teach me how to DJ, can I play?
Because yeah, you guys, you're twins, right? So you have the same birthday?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And he'd never DJed before. So I gave him lessons and he ended up playing at the boiler room. And then he actually came on and played back to back with me during my set, like during the prime time when everyone was there.
Wow.
And it was nuts. But yeah, running this event and obviously my past event experience really made me think like, man, I need to get back into this. And I think maybe whether it's like a boiler room style event, you know, or like a rave style event, incorporating that into the brand. Not sure yet, but we'll see. I think there's some cool stuff in the future.
I was going to say you should check out this guy, Roy Rivers. I met him at a creative event, but he actually, I think he repairs old PCs and then he creates like art out of like vintage PCs. It's pretty cool. Like unique designs. I don't know. He does like pop-ups at events, yeah.
His style's really cool.
So like he brought, at the event I went to, he brought like his old PC and he just had other people creating art on it.
This is really unique. I fuck with this.
Yeah. So even if you had like a little,
that guy.
You had a little event, like a pop-up for medical, just going off that technology theme, you could do a lot of cool stuff. Like, I don't know, have people playing like retro games, like people making like retro art. Like, I can see how, an event like that where it's not, it's like, it's medical, it's the clothing, but then it's also like these things that relate to the brand as well, and it like brings people together. That kind of would be pretty cool. Yeah,
no, 100%. It's it's all about creating a unique experience. That's something that I really believe in strongly. So, yeah, that idea of like, you know, painting a computer or something like that, that's cool.
Sick. Tye, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was amazing talking to you, hearing about your story and your brand and like everything you've been doing. So yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a good experience.
Where can people find you and your brand online?
My Instagram is Tye_Turner, TYE. And my brand is Medicle Studios, spelled MEDICLE. And I just launched my personal website, tyeturner.com. So check that out as well.
Sweet. I'll leave all of that in the show notes. Thanks again, guys.